Our buddy over here, JaySetto. I'm just messing with you. We know him as Jaren now, and I've known him for a while, and you probably know him because I always call him when I need an extra co-host. How you feeling, fam?
I'm good. How are you?
Hey. You already heard my grievances about this school, you know. All right, so here's how this is going to work, and I think this is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, for real. I'm happy to be here.
I'm actually going to let my buddy over here, Richard, take over.
Okay.
Mainly because he doesn't know you that well.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let him ask some questions.
Yeah, no problem. No problem.
You can start whenever you feel like.
How you doing, Rick?
So let's just start. And I got to ask, where'd you grow up?
I grew up in, I lived in New York City. Grew up in Harlem, and then I moved when I was a teenager up to New Rochelle, New York. Okay. That's where my mother's from. Yeah.
So what made you want to do hip hop though?
Oh, you mean?
Well, he mostly does R&B.
Right.
A little bit mixture of hip hop. Sometimes.
Yeah,
with the beatage.
Yeah.
With the beatage.
Yeah. What made me want to do R&B, you said? I mean, for me, R&B is what I grew up with as a kid. I grew up listening to artists like Stevie Wonder. He was like the very first artist I listened to. My mom played him in the house all the time. And I was very just fascinated by the way he structured his music, from the chords to the lyrics, just all the entire, just his body of work was really what made me become an artist as well as maybe want to become a musician. And also my grandfather, my mother's side, he was a jazz musician, and he won an award at the Apollo for apparently playing the trumpet and the piano at the same time and everything like that back in like the 1940s. And I only knew him for like maybe 9 years of my life, and they were the best years of my life because he taught me a lot about just learning how to play piano and stuff. I taught myself, but he taught me everything I know about the keys and everything like that. Then my father is who taught me about the production aspect of it. So but I didn't really get into music until like the production aspect of it, maybe until about 3-4 years ago, really. I was in high school. I think one time, I think even my dad told me, he was like, I don't know if you want to do music because you don't seem like you're into it. Because I used to be in the studio all the time back down in Harlem, trying to like sneak into a studio and trying to like come up with some beats and come up with ideas, because we would work together sometimes when I was a kid. That's what we would do. And he was worried for me because he didn't think that I took a interest in music. Like he thought maybe I was going to take an interest in computers or something like that, because I didn't care about there was a point where it's not that I didn't care, I just wasn't like so interested and into it as I am now. And I guess one day it's like I just took everything like my dad taught me, and something happened in high school. There's a friend of mine, and he basically we were in this performing arts class called PAVE in New Rochelle High School. Yeah. Shauna knows about PAVE.
Hey, wrong name, fam.
Now Marie knows about PAVE. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he was like one of the most amazing people that I've ever met. His musicianship is crazy, and I was so like fascinated just by his work and his voice and everything like that. Then he reached out to me one day. He was like, "Oh hey, after class," he was like, "Yo, do you want to work on something?" I was like, yeah, sure, because we already vibed together on the keyboard and everything like that. So I was like, yeah, no problem.
In fact, we played him right before we started.
Yeah, he was the first song y'all heard, Mandela Effect by the amazing Pink Noise.
I made sure to put everything on shuffle, so I didn't know it was going to come up.
Well, ironically, it did.
Hey.
You know, But yeah, we I went to his house that weekend and we worked on a song of his, and he said, "Oh no, you're gonna produce it." I was like, "Huh? I've never produced anything in my life. I mean, I have, but not like in full. If anything, it was just like a beat. It was just a loop, and there were no changes. It was just like nothing to it. So I ended up being like, okay. I was nervous as I don't know what, and I did it, and it was one of like the first songs I actually created in full.
You
And
sound very proud of that.
I remember coming home that night actually, showing my parents. I was like, oh, like yo, look what I made, and they were like amazed by it and everything like that. It was a song called "Patrol the Moon" that we had done.
It's a lit song, guys.
Yeah, and then on out, it was like boom. I started really. After that, I took everything my dad taught me, and I put very much hard work into what will become my first project, my first album, and it took me years to complete.
I know that's right. Any other questions, fam?
Were you a part of this song? I'm sorry, Nana.
Yes, I was.
Yeah, she sure was.
I was a songwriter on it, and I sung on it.
Amen.
See,
Nah, not an agent.
You got cut that. You got cut that out. I did manage the page though, for like a bit.
Yeah.
And then school kicked my butt, so it's not good.
Yep. But
No,
yeah.
The way you talk about like Stevie Wonder being your inspiration, like you sound like a true instrumentalist. Like you play an instrument?
Yes, I play piano. Like I said, like I taught myself how to play piano, and then my grandfather, he saw I took an interest in playing it because I taught myself from a very young age. I had to be like 5, because before that I remember just banging on the piano, but I was always so like fascinated by the piano. I didn't know why, and then by the time I was 5, I was just like learning how to play stuff. And I remember one day as a kid, there was this Stevie Wonder tune. It was called "Never Dream You Leave in Summer." It was a very sad tune. I remember playing it on the piano. My mom came in and she was like, "What? Oh my God, you're playing that?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I remember just being so like amazed by it and everything like that.
And the last time I hung out with you, I remember seeing a guitar at your house.
Oh yeah.
You trying to learn that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Trying
Absolutely.
To get some more instruments down?
Absolutely, that's the goal. But yeah, my main instrument is piano, and then like I'm also a vocalist, but the vocal aspect of that didn't come until maybe around, I want to say, freshman year.
Still bomb. Still bomb. No
Thank
lie.
you so much.
So you really trying to get some extra instruments under your belt, like our buddy?
Absolutely, because it's like once I realized I could produce and everything, it's just so good to have, like,
you just want to be immersed in that process.
It's so good to be immersed in and just be in control of, like, your ear and what you're hearing in your ear, and just to put that down, it's a blessing. So I thank God every day for it. I really do. I don't take it for granted. I don't mean to make you cry, man.
Oh my gosh.
It's alright. Snap. So I assume you two met in high school?
Oh yeah.
Yes, sir.
Well,
yes.
I was probably freshman or close to being a freshman, and he was like 8th, close to being 8th.
Around that time.
Yeah.
And under what circumstances did you two meet?
We met in the library at New Richard High School.
Yo,
not in New Richard High School. I mean, at the
nobody-
public library.
Most people won't believe this, but the library was my favorite place.
That was a hangout spot at one point.
And that was a hangout spot, and we would just go there, chill out, wait for people to get there, crowd around the teen room. That was just the thing. And
what were you doing at the library?
chilling with some friends.
Man, we would just be talking, really.
I don't.
Nah.
We don't do that.
Come on, man. We were like, what, 13, 14 years old?
Nah. We just
I don't
sat
even
there.
smoke. I don't.
Yo, like legit, we would just sit there
Not for
and
me.
just talk about random nonsense. That would be basically it. But I do remember we did bond over music.
Absolutely.
We didn't have that many friends.
Yeah, that's
that
what started
actually
it.
had the same interest in music as we did. So that was, a very good thing, that us meeting, we wound up having, that was our like traction to gaining more friends with the same musical interest that way. So
Yeah.
It was very good to meet you. That was fun.
That was a fun day.
That was lit.
That was a fun day.
Yeah, that was some nonsense though, but
Woo.
it was fun. So,
Me,
like,
you, Raven, other
was
people,
wild.
I think Nicola was there too.
Yeah, most
Lots of
likely.
people were there.
So
Oh,
I
man.
think we're gonna play some more music. I had Jaren send me some stuff. You know, mostly his musical influences, because I thought that would be a great way to start us off. And then we're gonna get really into the meat of some of his older stuff into his newer stuff, and that growth right there. So I think I'm gonna let the music speak for itself on how he got to what place he got to and where he's going from now. All right, everybody, we back on there. I just had to take a minute and a breather and, you know, listen to some stuff and do a lot of things, but I still got Jaren here, formerly known as JaySetto. And the reason I bring this up is because we're really going to get into, you know, how he got here. So, you did release an album
Yes,
under
yes,
a different name, JaySetto.
yes.
How about you talk about the writing process a little bit, talk about how that whole thing came to be and what you were learning at that point, because I know this was your first project.
Yeah.
It's the first time you were taking on a project this big, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yes, yes.
And I think it would be a good thing, because my co-host here, he may have heard me play some of this stuff, but he doesn't really know you like that. So I
Yeah,
think that would
absolutely.
be definitely a very good thing.
Yeah, no problem. So you mean the writing process, right?
Let's start with the concept for that.
The
first
concept.
album.
Oh, wow.
How did you really start honing in? Like, yeah, I want to do this album this way.
I think it went really. So I'll just pick it up from the time when I did the song "Patrol the Moon." Now it's known as Pink Noise. After that night, ironically, you know, my dad had a studio set up for me and everything. He had all the equipment ready, you know, after I came home and everything. So I remember I went down to, I think it was my aunt's house for some event or something like that, some occasion. Hi, Aunt Di, I know you listen, love you. And I came back, and all this equipment was just set up, and I was like, oh my god, it's working. And then like my dad came in and he was like, yeah, it's working, everything's set up. I was like, yeah, it's perfect, thank you so much. So the very first song I did, y'all have never heard it because unfortunately it got deleted. We'll get into that in a second because that was crazy, that was hell. But no, it was a song I did called "What's the Use," and I stayed up until like 4 a.m. working on it. And I think it was really my writing. It came up with just this. I think the storyline was like, you see this girl across the room at a party, and you want to approach her and everything, but she's with another guy, and y'all already had something, but y'all broke up. I think that was What's the Use was about. And I was so proud of myself for making it. I was like, this has to be on there. But it didn't. And I guess it didn't because I wasn't in that, I guess I wasn't in that realm anymore or in that feeling anymore. And then, I started writing the album just based off of like concepts of like, events that happened in my teenage life, mostly with romance and everything like that. Like stuff like having my first girlfriend in high school, and then going into having like a breakup, then like having a second girlfriend in high school and everything like that. And it's funny because I think I was dating this girl and we were off and on at the time, and that was really the writing process came from. It came from like just living life, and life really started hitting me around that time.
So like your writing process.
Yeah.
Because I only remember a little bit. And tell me how it was when you were writing. How did you feel when you tried it out? Because if I do remember correctly, this was your first time during this album where you were writing a majority of everything.
Let me tell you, the very first real song I did for the EP, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was our song, Just Can't Leave You Alone. And that went through so many versions. We'll get to that later. But but the very first song, I'm not going to count that just yet, was She Don't Know. And I just was... Thank you. And, you know, I was just messing around. I kind of wanted, like, some type of hip-hop beat, something modern that people could, you know, shake to and groove to, you know. Something that was just upbeat and modern. Very repetitive looking back on it. And I was like, why did I write
You
this
know
sometimes?
what? I think it would be very appropriate,
You know?
if I played, you know, just a small snippet of She Don't Know. Give me 2 seconds, guys, because I got it right here. We'll play a small snippet of it.
JaySetto, no luck. We've been friends for such a long time. I was wondering one day you could be mine. If I tell her, I hope she make up her mind. But she don't know. No, she don't know. I hope letting her know isn't the end. Gotta do what I gotta do, need to make amends. Don't wanna get between her and her friends, but she don't know. No.
I really know what you like. You really know what I want. Don't be so passive, just love me, it's not. You say you got it, but we know what's up. You know you guilty of being fine. You should be guilty of being mine. Being mine. Oh, being mine. Well.
But that was fun.
Also, shout out to my big brother Justin. Cayenne No Luck. We did that song. I actually sent him a voice memo, and that's how I started the song. Actually, I was like, yo, I really want you on this, and he was a part of the first single I dropped. So I love you forever for that, man. Thank you so much for being part of my very first song. Love you dearly, man, and keep killing it out there. I know you killing. I'm very proud of you.
And you definitely worked very hard on that. And I could tell, definitely.
And it just came out, you know. It's like, I was like, I hope letting her know isn't the end. And I was like, oh, okay. Gotta do what I gotta do, need to make amends.
I love how you still remember all the words.
And I mean, of course, you know. And it's like, I felt so good at the time. I was only 16 when I wrote it and produced it.
And yet now you say it's so cringy.
It is cringy in a way, because, you know, you always look back at your first record and you're like,
and
you know.
that's exactly what happened with that other song on the album.
Oh, God.
That I was on.
Oh, God.
Remember that many iterations.
Oh, Lord. I mean, you know what? And the thing about Just the Beginning is, like, it's a growth process.
Very much so.
I spent time and months just putting that together. And it took about 2 years really to put the entire thing together. Or about 2 years at least, you know. And around that time, it was just like, these are things I was going through. Stuff came out. I wanted to talk about real stuff, like, you know, stuff that was going on in the world. And, you know, especially with the Black Lives Matter movement at the time, and how all that's still relevant today. One of the best songs I've probably ever done was News Blues, you know, with my dear cousin / sister known as Lotus Halves. I remember I came up with the chords in a algebra extra help session or something like that. I was going for a region study or something like that on a Friday night, and I remember I was like, no, something's in my head. I was like, let me just write this down, let me get back to learning about whatever. And I wrote down the bass line. It was like dum 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 dum, and I was like, okay. And I went home and I put it all together, and I was like, I hear my cousin on this song, like, deeply. I hear it, and I reached out to her, and, you know, that's where that famous hilarious voice note comes from the Hey Jaren, you know. And she wrote to it, and I was like, no, that's perfect. I was like, that's perfect. So, you know, she came up, we recorded it, and then she went to do some vocals over again. I was like, yeah, no problem. I believe I did some vocals over again as well, a little bit.
So you very much went off of intuitive feeling.
Intuitive feeling, you know, yeah. I wanted something neo soulful.
That intuition.
Yeah.
Just caught you up, and
right.
you were like, yeah, I gotta do it.
Yeah.
Gotta roll.
Yeah, and it was I'm telling you, it was like just like the horns and everything. I wanted this to be so full, but harmonies. I'm so inspired by artists like Brandy, and Brandy, her harmonies to me are like they're just so like, they influence me so much that to the point where it's like I want to be able to do harmonies like that. So I'm always sitting around to this day. Like, I remember this morning I was listening to Solange, and I'm just harmonizing, coming up with different harmonies in my head, trying to picture, okay, like, this is some stuff I could do in my own music. And, yeah, that's how News Blues came up about. And a lot of stuff on that album was just about social issues. We did a Black Lives Matter song that you were on, that we don't really talk about that much, but it's alright. Look, I don't like it either, but you know, it happened.
Oh no.
Oh, I'll play that for you after we're done.
After we're done.
Yeah.
And all of y'all can find that later. But I definitely would like to say, before I cut to playing a little bit more of your JaySetto stuff before we move on to your new project, I definitely want to say, you definitely really try to embody harmonies, and that's something that even when I was involved in that process with you, I noticed that a lot. Yeah. And I really loved it.
Thank you so much. It was
really great, because not that many people can do it like you can do it. Or like Pink Noise can do it. I can't do it like y'all can do it. And I'm just looking at y'all like, wow, they doing some fantastical stuff.
I think the thing with me and Pink Noise is that we have such a, you know, great friendship, where it's like, you know, I would come into his house and we would always work on something. We always start with a conversation, and we just talk about life, and we just talk about just music in general and what inspires us and everything like that. Then we get into our own stuff and our own, you know, personal lives and everything like that.
Yeah, that's
and we talk about like how we develop music and harmonies, like what do you do with this and how do you do that. So with him, it's like we learn a lot from each other, you know. So it's that type of thing.
Like, that's awesome. And you should really be proud of yourself for that. I'm being mad honest, and you know I'm being honest. So we're going to play a little bit more off of that old album, and then we're really going to get into the nitty-gritty stuff that I really like. Meaning this new project, because I've heard some instrumentals and stuff, and I'm ready. I'm ready for it. Let's get it cracking.
Yeah.
Microphone check, 1, 2, check.
Alright. Yeah. Friends, how many of us have them? Do we really need them? Is this the end? What's good with you? Cause I don't know what the issue is. Cause you're acting a fool. All the shit that you put me through, I don't gotta do it, you not. I remember you being cocky, yeah, was like the #1 hobby. Thinking you the best, but then you just got pressed on. Now you guess you got this pain on your shoulders. You're doing everybody wrong. You're gonna do you, I'ma do me. But man, can't you see that you just can't fit me? You can't fit me. No, you can't fit me. You can't. Nobody's gonna bring me down. Haters everywhere, I'ma get that crown. Show 'em how I roll, hit 'em with that sound. They be like, oh man, he's above the ground. But this is what I found out. And I'll be doing this by the grace of God till my last day. I'll make sure you never bring me down. Alright, giving me no, friends. How many of us have been? Do we really need them assisting, baby? What's good with you? Cause I don't know what the issue is. Cause you're acting a fool. All the shit that you put me through, I don't gotta deal with you now. I remember you being cocky, yeah, was like the #1 hobby. Thinking you're the best, but then you just got pressed on. Now you guess you got this pain on your shoulders. You're doing everybody wrong.
Let's stick together.
assuming? Is it worth the losing all your composure over something you don't know? Why are you confusing? Why is it amusing? Is it worth holding on, or should we just let go? Let it go. Why are you assuming? Let it go. Let it go. Is it worth the losing? Let it go.
Now y'all heard that. I don't even gotta say nothing about those harmonies. Those harmonies are so bomb. But what I do have to do, okay. I know a certain someone wants me to play the whole song. I'm gonna play a version of the song because I really love this remix, and y'all gotta hear this remix because I've been bopping to it for like a solid week in preparation for this. So let's do this.
Is it worth the losing all your composure over something you don't know? Why are you confusing? Why is it amusing? Is it worth holding on? Holding on. Holding on. Holding on.
Pearl, I done said it.
Holding on.
That's still a bop. That's still a bop.
Shout out to
still a
Pink
bop.
Noise for the remix.
It's a bop.
The goats.
What you mean okay?
Yeah.
You know that's a bop. Now, before we shift the gears, I think it's only right that we play your release, your new stuff.
Absolutely.
Because that's only fair.
Yeah.
And we got a homie in here that would fight me if I didn't play it too. And I know I always play it. Y'all have heard it on the station before. And he came out with Honest. He came out with Honest, man. And it's really good, guys. It's really good. And them harmonies are there too. So I think I'm going to leave it there. And then we're going to come back because we got to find out about this new project. I need to know about this new project.
You will, I promise.
You promise?
Absolutely, of course.
I want all the deets.
Yes.
Even though I heard some of it. Bye.
Thank you for the lessons and for all the blessings. But you got your bad habits, need some addressing. You're not aware of it all is what I'm guessing. Cause you might be full of it, are you stressing? But you acting like the shit, nigga, like you flexing. Like you pointing out the other issues, why you guessing? When the truth of the matter is you confessing with yourself that you're not doing good intentions. You finesse your way out of the problem, cause the truth is you can't solve them. And it's gonna take you right to the bottom. Don't lie to yourself, why do you play these games? Don't know why you got such an attitude. If only you see from my point of view, and know that the truth lies in you, but don't lie to yourself. Why do you play these games? If you would stop using your consciousness as a way to just boost all your confidence, and only if you would be honest and true to yourself. Why do you play these games? Yeah. Why do you play those games? Now I love our conversations when you need some venting, but sometimes shit ain't even what they mention. I really think you might need some comprehension, or a way to get through to decrease the tension. Oh, if you like and you advise, and you can tell me all your lies, see what's inside. Oh, inside your beauty lies. Girl, get my message, don't block your blessings, no. Oh, if you could see just what's inside of you. Don't lie to yourself, why do you play those games?
Central, bop, and he got a video out for that. Go look it up. We'll post it on the page. We'll post it on the page. Yeah. And we got a question out for you. If you have a question for Jaren that you want us to ask right now, because we don't got a phone in here because that thing's broken. Yo, tell us on the Hot Mess Central Facebook page, man. We want to know. We want to ask it for you. We'd love to. But back to the topic at hand, man.
Yes, ma'am.
New project?
Yes.
Tell us about these
Jaren
new projects.
Jaren. I guess the safe place to start was my name change.
Get 'em.
I think this is like very exciting for me to talk about because
and I went wacko, bro.
Man, you I think you were one of the first people that I actually told, I'm thinking about changing my name, and you were so against, like, now why would you do that? And she was like, you know what, don't talk to me. Jokingly and everything. But no, I think it started with some of the feedback I was getting from JTB. And the process, we have to talk about JTB just for a quick second, because the transition from JTB to JARENisJAREN, or the transition from JaySetto to Jaren, it's all about growing. And immediately when I had dropped Just the Beginning, I was in this mindset of, okay, what am I going to do next? And ironically, I was already working on another project, which you know as Bliss. And man, I can't wait. We're not even going to talk about that. But yeah, Bliss is another project that I've been working on for quite some time. And I started immediately after, because I knew that in my heart I wanted to dig deeper within myself. I was loving all the positive feedback and stuff, and then there was some negative feedback I got from some people, from some friends and stuff, just little comments. People at school, somebody told me to try better next time with the one dance cover of Drake that I did, and I was like, oh, okay.
That was a good cover.
Yeah.
Be quiet, y'all.
Thank you. I mean, it's a cover, but I wanted to slow it down. I just did it as a ballad. And I did the I Can't Help It Michael Jackson cover as well. And these were just regular covers I ended up putting on there just to make the album more fuller. And the process really was, with some of the feedback I was getting, I think some of the negative feedback, but also what I initially, I was so intuitive with what I wanted. I knew I wanted a different sound to kind of project, kind of take all my influences and put them all into one, make it kind of modern, but make it my own. And I felt I was drifting away from the whole JaySetto thing and the entire JTB thing, and I stopped promotion with it altogether, because I knew that I was going into a different place. I was going to a different realm where it was like, okay, what am I gonna do next? How am I gonna do this? And then stuff came out like crazy, and I was just experimenting with sounds, and I listened to albums like Frank Ocean's Blonde a lot to kind of hear, okay, what synthesizer is he using? What drum kit is he using? What are all these things I'm hearing? Blonde was an album that really spoke to me as a young adult, as a young man, because there was so much that really went into it. It's a very personal album, but also the production aspect of it was just beautiful to me. And it wasn't that I didn't like it at first, and it just grew on me immediately. The next day I was just listening to it over, and I was like, wow, okay, Blonde is amazing. And then I really started figuring out, okay, what am I going to do? And I started listening to different artists, the current artists, the band The Internet, and this rapper named Saba, and people like Iman Europe, and Sabrina Claudio, and all these different artists that I really just have grown to love. I started going to some of their concerts and following them on their pages, really getting into their catalog of music to help and kind of elevate myself in the sense to kind of figure out what am I going to do next and how am I going to do this. and I started really getting to Brandy a lot more than I was already into her, and I started really harmonizing on top of her harmonies and figuring out, okay, what can I do? There's an album that she did called Full Moon that I'm very inspired by. It was very artistic, very just like, it was very 2000s, but also very like out of its time, way ahead of its time. And it's like, I really just went, I wanted to bring my A game for this. So I changed my name because I didn't feel like JaySetto anymore. I felt like a better version and a more mature, more truthful version of myself.
Deep.
So that's where Honest came from, and Honest was really inspired by lots of people that have came and left my life and stuff like that, especially throughout high school. People showing off, especially in Pave and Corral, you know, and all those classes and stuff. People like, oh yeah, I'm the ish and I'm this and I'm better than you at this, and I can sing and I can do this. I'm like, we all here for the same reason. You know, I'm just trying to grow and do what I can to be the best musician, and maybe even potentially at least a decent vocalist, you know. And I really wanted to dig deeper within myself, so I made the very brave choice of leaving JaySetto behind, and that was something that came to my mind first in July. Then I went with it in October. I reached out to Pink Noise about it because, you know, he's had many name changes, and I was like, yo, I need some advice. I was thinking of changing my name from JaySetto to just Jaren. He was like, how come? I said, I felt like I wasn't resonating with it anymore. I felt like my sound was, I was evolving more into myself, evolving more into a more of a truthful version of myself, where I could be more honest and I can be more personal, and I can really let the best version of me come out. And that's where Honest came from. Honest is a song about ego. It's a song about staying true to yourself and being authentic, and, you know, knowing that sometimes you're in the wrong and you gotta fess up for it. And, you know, we all make mistakes. We're not perfect at the end of the day. Even I have a problem with it. You know, I could be stubborn sometimes and be like, oh yeah, I don't want to hear that and everything like that. But I feel like everybody could be stubborn. Everybody could be like, oh yeah, you're not gonna tell me this, and you're not gonna tell me that. I hear what I want to hear. But it's like, really, sometimes it's really the truth, and it's something that you need to hear just so you can become a better you. That's really why I wrote it, because of based off experiences in my life, you know. And it was one of the best songs I've ever done, and I did the music for it last June in 2018, but I didn't record any of it and write to it until November of last year when it dropped. And immediately when I finished it, my dad and I mixed it, sent it to the stores, and it came out when it came out. And I was so overwhelmed with just all the love, because I was like, is anybody going to listen after I changed my name, after I did the announcement of changing my name and stuff? But it felt like I felt like on top of the world that night, just from all the beautiful responses that I got from it. Like, I was like, oh my God, people really love this. And it's like, I was like, okay, I have to do a video for this, because it's like, in a way, this is like, Jaren is a rebirth for me. JAREN is a rebirth for me.
So for you, you created a bridge to get back to yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now that you're back to yourself, you got new stuff. And I know he brought new stuff with him.
Yeah, I did. I sent it to your email, I believe.
To my emails. I would say which email, but I don't need y'all knowing my email. That's a little too much. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I definitely sent it to your email. Hold on.
Do you have something that you would prefer me to play first to give everybody, you know,
I think
a little sneak preview? I
think before we do that, I just want to get into the description of what JARENisJAREN's about. So just to sum it up for y'all, you know, I started to really figure out, okay, now that this is it. Originally I entitled it Jaren, and my cousin Lotus she had we were trying to figure out, okay, what are you gonna call your Instagram page? And ironically, it's like it's gonna be This Is Jaren or Only Jaren or something with Jaren in it. JARENisJAREN did pop into my head ironically, but I was like, no, I feel like that's cheesy. But then she had said it, and it just rang a bell. I was just like, okay, so I'm not alone on this. And I feel like JARENisJAREN is really about staying true to yourself, which is what Honest is about. It's about being authentic, and there's it could be seen as, the EP can be seen as a little short storyline, a little short conceptual album as well as a little EP. I originally did 6 songs for it, and I started really getting into it in September. Finding, now that I knew like what my sound was gonna be after working on stuff with Bliss for such a while, I was like, I have to put something out. Like, I want to put something out. And now I was getting back to myself again by writing, because there was a period when under name JaySetto, after I dropped the album, I didn't write under that name anymore after that. Like, I've written maybe like 1 song that was going to be for Bliss, but as I changed my name, all these different stuff like started coming out, and it was really a transition period for me. So JARENisJAREN for me is about I am me. I don't want to be compared to anybody else because I'm me. I just want to be Jaren, because Jaren is Jaren, and I can't be anybody else.
So
I can only be myself.
So once we play this,
yeah,
we just gonna hear you, and I don't just mean the vocals. We gonna hear you.
Yeah, absolutely.
All you.
All me. This is a little surprise.
Not a little hidden thing.
There's a little surprise in there.
Ooh, I like presents. You would like that one. All right.
Just a little snippet, y'all.
We're going to do a little snippet.
This is called Waste of Time, and it's just a small snippet, not the full song, because I'm dropping it very, very soon.
Because I told him I need to play some new stuff. I need some fun stuff. So I think we're just going to start with that. We're going to come back, and then, we're going to just, have a nice discussion. And he brought me a lot of goodies, guys.
Love me, wasting my time. Give her all of my mind, my love, attention, apprehensive, at love, feeling, it's on, healing, wasting my time.
And we're back, and that was a bop too.
Yeah.
So tell us more about this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell us more
about Waste of Time.
Who's wasting the time?
No,
we're
not gonna get into that.
Or are you feeling like you're wasting time? Like, I want to know now.
Okay, I'll give you a
invested.
little funny story. I wouldn't even say like this turned out to be true or anything like that. I think, but Waste of Time is basically about a relationship or a situationship or something that's gone wrong, and you're not speaking to this person, like much as you used to. There's lots of it's very straightforward if you really think about it. It's about tensions are arising, and this person's really deeply hurt you. So now you need some healing. You need to figure out, okay, what am I going to do for myself? I realized this person was wasting my time all along. I love this girl with all my might and all my heart, but she's just wasting time by not speaking to me, not entertaining me, not giving me her affection and stuff that I deserve that I've been giving to her.
So it's kind of like you're doing your 50. You just wish she would do her 50.
Yeah.
Or you're doing your 100. She needs to do her 100.
There was a point where she was doing her 100.
But she kind of rescinded
she drifted
a piece of that. Yeah,
she drifted, and that's why I'm like, she don't love me, thinks nothing of me, and it's
that's smart.
It was very straightforward. Smart. I was mad for some reason.
But I think it's smart that you went straightforward with it.
Yeah, I didn't want it. The thing is, like, people might see the song as an interlude. I'm like, it's not an interlude. It's a very short song, and lots of people do it. Because sometimes you don't have a lot to say. Sometimes you just have to say something, then leave the booth, you know? And, like, that's all I want to say. And, you know, sometimes saying a lot is too much for a song. So I think that's why I made Waste of Time very straightforward. And I based Waste of Time off of, like, albums like Michael Jackson's Invincible and, once again, Brandy's Full Moon, and really elements from, like, the late 90s and to the early 2000s, from maybe, like, 98 to '01 or something like that. I try to embody that sound, you know? So that's what Waste of Time is really about.
And I love how you were intentional. You were just like, this is what I want to say, and it doesn't even have to be that long.
Yeah. I wrote Waste of Time in the cafeteria at Berklee College of Music. That's the college I go to. And I wrote it at lunch. It was very straightforward. I had made the music already upstairs out of nowhere, because I was just like, I woke up out of bed and just like, you know, sometimes you wake up kind of cranky, you wake up kind of mad for whatever reason. Sometimes you feel like going to class. I went to class and I came back and I was like, no, something's in my head. And it's funny because sometimes in class it's like the best stuff just pops up into your head. And it's like, wow, okay. So I went in and that's how I created Waste of Time. And it took me like about 2 hours to complete music-wise. And then like around maybe 5 p.m. on a Friday evening, I made this song in December, and I just went to a sound booth downstairs in one of the Berklee practice rooms, and I took like an hour on it because I knew exactly what I was hearing. I knew I wanted Brandy harmonies. I know I wanted something like something, you know, different that nobody's really ever heard, or, you know, something different. I wanted to do something different. I love being different. I think that's also part of my sound, and the title is just, it's different. It's not just like a regular type of thing where you're just hearing a regular R&B song. You're hearing all these elements into one.
I feel it. I feel it. So I'm gonna play this next song.
Yeah. Oh, what song is that?
You know what song it is. You said only like 3 songs.
Yes.
And I played one of them.
About that song.
Oh.
This song.
I was about to ask. I'm scared.
Oh, no. Go ahead.
I was about to ask. I was like, is there something I should know about it? Because I'm looking at it.
It's a cover.
Oh.
It's a cover of.
What you do to it? I'm gonna like it though.
It's a cover with yeah. It's a cover of the song a song by Sir. He's a part of the TDE Top Dog label with Kendrick Lamar and Schoolboy Q and all those artists and SZA. And I love his body of work. I listen to The Evils like all the time, and for some reason, like, I really want to do a cover of it. And how this happened was that my cousin Lotus Habs played it for me because she wanted to do she wanted to do a gig, and she wanted me to play in her gig, and that's how it really started. So it started as just a based off a piano groove, intimate, you know, type of groove thing, and we did that. We performed that at her gig. It was my very first performance, and I did assume and all that stuff like that. I was still under the name JaySetto, and we just insisted on like, okay, let's do this song because we love it so much. So I did the background vocals for her and everything like that. Where this time, I did the first verse and she did the second verse. So I brought her back for this particular EP, and she's like the only feature on it.
That's lit.
And The Evils is about escapism. It's about, you know, it's about smoking weed, of course. I mean, I don't do it, but it was a very fun song to record. It's very catchy because it's talking about "Got one spliff a day will keep the evil away," and it says it in the lyrics. You know, just listen to it. It's a really good vibe. I based the sound this time. I wanted the slow mid-tempo to give it that type of like slow motion vibe that I'm saying in the song as well. And I just want people to, you know, be really chill to it. And, you know, it's not the same beat as the original tune. I think I did in halftime, maybe. The beat was maybe in halftime or something like that. And I listened to lots of her as well, and Snow Allegra and stuff like that. and I based it off of that as well. And I just really made something of it into my own. So yeah, you could play that. Yeah, the whole thing.
Tell me who that if it ain't me. If it ain't a party, then it's finna be. Never had a problem that I couldn't solve. It must be official if I get involved. Caught upon a fire burning daily. Harder to remember, getting harder to remember. I've been through enough to drive me crazy. I don't think my mama's gonna save me. Maybe I'm not flying, but I'm floating. If we not headed to the top, where we going? 2 miles an hour, can you picture me rolling? Cause life is so much better when you live in slow motion. Got one split for day, we keep the motion, slow motion. Got one split for day, we keep the motion, slow motion. Got one split for day, we keep the slow motion. Got one split for day, we keep the slow motion. Got one split for day, we keep the slow motion. Got one split for day, we keep the slow motion. Got one split for day, we keep the slow motion. Got one split for day, we keep the slow motion.
Pardon me while I elevate. May not be on time, but I'm never late. Blazing like the player that you wanna be. Flavor like your baby mama cup of tea. You see the company I'm keeping now. Feeling like I'm dreaming, I keep feeling like I'm dreaming. Don't come around if you don't be around. I've been one man, you believe me now. Maybe I'm not flying, but I'm floating. If we not headed to the top, where we going? 2 miles an hour, can you picture me rolling? Cause life is so much better when you live in slow motion. Slow motion, slow motion, slow motion, split for day, slow motion, slow motion, slow motion, split for day, slow motion, slow motion, got one split for day, slow motion, slow motion, got one split for day, slow motion, slow motion, got one split for day, slow motion, slow motion, got one split for day, slow motion, slow motion, got one split for day, slow motion, slow motion.
Sorry about that short break, y'all. Had something to take care of. But that was a bop, and I was listening from the back room. Don't think I wasn't listening. I was
Yes, just to note that no, that's not my own song. That is a cover that I did with The Great Lotus Halves by the amazing Sir. You should look into his music. He's a really, really dope artist. Really nice, talented guy.
Now I got a question for you.
Absolutely.
I've definitely seen you evolve throughout this whole process, especially since I met you during just the beginning era. Okay. So I've seen this whole thing. What do you truly think of the change? Because this is a big change. You changed the name. That automatically means, you gotta change the name on all your old stuff or get a new thing or whatever. You gotta do all that. So that was a hard change.
It was.
All your music is now putting out on that. It's the same thing with like A. Marie. She put that extra I, and now nobody can find her at that point, right?
Yeah.
So you have that change, and then with that change came this new, I guess, awareness of where you want to go.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about that? And I think you probably already answered that question, but I really feel like I should ask that again.
No, absolutely.
Just to reinforce that.
Absolutely. You said, how do I feel about
how do you feel about that change?
The change is a wonderful thing. Like if somebody were to tell me a year ago where I was, to the point where at this point in my life I wasn't even writing. Last year, I had writer's block for a very, very long time. Even at the end of putting together just the beginning, I had a very bad case of writer's block. I don't think I had really anything to really talk about, So I started really by elevating my sound by just making random beats and making random instrumentals and kind of I listen to vibe, but I also listen to evaluate and just like figure out what can I do? What can I do to make myself more authentic? What can I do so I'm not sounding like someone else? And my biggest fear is also sounding like someone else because I don't want to sound like anybody else. I think sounding like someone else, then you get compared to. You're always gonna get compared to. I'm not gonna say that.
You just don't want it as harshly as
maybe
some other people have gotten it in the past.
Yeah, like you see artists like take Solange and Beyonce and Solange, like for example, and like I followed Solange since I was like maybe 8 years old. I remember the 60s album that she came out with,
Definitely.
the doo-wop album that she came out with. I remember watching that on BET and just being like, wow, she's dope, really good songs. But Beyonce was like seen as like the global superstar and everything. I already love Beyonce, but my love for her grew like later on, like as I became a teenager, and I learned to respect both artists. I learned to respect their artistry and their genius because both of them are geniuses. I was just playing Solange earlier today, her new album When I Get Home, from start to finish, and that alone reminds me of like, and she said herself in an interview, I believe she said she was inspired by the Stevie Wonder album that nobody really cares about except for maybe a few people. It was called the Journey Through the Secret Life of Plants, and it was an album. It was for a documentary for a film that he was making for a film, and it was the most experimental, most beautiful thing I've ever heard. And for someone to write about plants and to be blind, and not even just that, but like to envision that and to put it into such a masterpiece that was big for me. And that's also another album that I tend to listen to a lot. I know people go to like, oh, Songs of the Key of Life is the best Stevie Wonder album. Like, okay, that could be true. But me, I'm more of a Secret Life of Plants person.
So you're really trying to find the respect in it.
Yeah.
Instead of it just being the hype of it.
Yeah. And I find, I use Beyonce and Solange as the perfect example because I hate seeing online, oh, Beyonce's better and who cares about her and who cares about Solange and that. I'm like, y'all need to stop comparing the two because they're both in lanes of their own to the point where I can respect both. Now, of course, Beyonce and the visual aspect and the whole entire artistry aspect, when she surprise dropped that visual record, I was like, whoa, I want to do something like that.
Which
Heck,
one? She had two.
Yeah, visual album, Drunken Love, that album.
So the Beyonce.
The Beyonce album.
And Lemonade was good.
And
too.
Lemonade was brilliant as well. Everything that she does is brilliant. I think the artist I want to be, I do look after her a lot and what she does. I look at her performances a lot. I look at, hey, we went to a Beyonce concert together. So on the Run tour, last minute, Beyonce. And I think just being in her presence, just seeing that amazing performance was a wonderful extravaganza moment for me. I was like, like it just shows that I want to put on and everything like that. And it was just an amazing moment for me. I think going back to Solange, I look at like her visuals as well with the When I Get Home album that she had just dropped and the visual aspect as well. And like the same thing, it's like the way I was saying in Waste of Time, sometimes you don't have a lot to say. She didn't have a lot to say. And she said that herself in When I Get Home. She said the difference between a seat at the table with cranes in the sky and Don't Touch My Hair, that album was marvelous. She had a lot to say. She had a lot to say about being black and was a proud thing to be black, and you can't forget your roots with that, you know what I mean? And I think the thing that we don't get here, sometimes you have sometimes you have a lot to say and sometimes you don't. Whereas with Solange, she didn't have a lot to say at all. She was more like, oh, okay, well, on this album, I don't have a lot to say. That's why you hear lots of repetitive, lots of things that kind of repeat over and over again, like throughout the entire record. And I remember listening to it, I was like, this is funny, this is silly, but I love it. I never once like doubted it. I was like, okay, this is a beautiful record right here. So I really look into the embodiment of an album, and I like to listen to albums in full. And I was looking at a video the other day. She's nobody makes albums anymore.
So you're really trying to really focus on making a
cohesive body of work
instead of making a single here, single there, and it doesn't really gel well.
Right. And that's the thing that we forget, we only listen to singles. I don't want to like sound like her, but it's the truth, She was really giving facts. I wanted to share it the other day on my Twitter and stuff like that, but I didn't. But it's the truth, and she wasn't being shady or anything. I think that's why she had dropped the entire album like that. Definitely. I think that's why she dropped the visual album. We don't watch videos anymore. We watch singles, we listen to singles, we watch videos, and then we call it a day. And the promotion falls because of that. That woman, she sold 5 million records off of that Beyonce album, off of that album alone. And that was like one of the most amazing albums I've ever listened to. It was a time. I can't wait to see whatever she has next. And then, I use them as a example. I think another great example is Michael and Janet, where Janet, they're totally two different artists, and I mean, who wouldn't want to, go after the King of Pop? I'm a Michael Jackson stan, so I can tell you what year this was released, what day this was released, and how many tracks on the Bad record and Dangerous and Thriller and Off the Wall and all that stuff. But I also look into Janet's amazing, very diverse discography, and I listen to Control.
And you're trying to let that
Rhythm
kind
Nation.
of go into what you're doing. You're trying to not replicate, but trying to take the things that you like and make it into your own. Trying to become that artist that you see yourself as being, which I think is really dope, and it's really smart of you to do that. Yeah, and I got into Janet by the time I was like maybe 11, 12 years old. Listened to her entitled catalog of work, like from the Janet album, talking about kind of like making sex not a bad thing as long as you play it safe, and going into like The Velvet Rope, which is really what goes into like an album that I'm working on. I'm doing an album about mental health called Bliss, and finding the need to love yourself more. And I was inspired by The Velvet Rope because of that, because there were all these all these themes that she was putting into her music, all these things that she was going through at a certain time. She went through depression, and I like to always look into like the background of an artist and what made them do this type of album, what personal things were they going through, if there was anything personal, and what can we learn from that. Also, the sound of it was beautiful. I think if any of you haven't listened to Velvet Rope, I think that's a marvelous album that you should listen to, because it talks about stuff like sexuality, and talks about uplifting, loving yourself, appreciating life, and feeling the need to really be special and get out of that depression mode and appreciate yourself a lot more. And that's something I've noticed. You've really tried to move towards the positivity of things.
Yeah,
which is
absolutely
a very great thing, and it's probably very good for your mental health.
Yeah.
I do want to end this off. That way we can play some more of his influences, so you can really get an idea of where he's drawing inspiration from. But I definitely think this was a very great experience, and I'm glad that you actually were like, yeah, totally, I'll come down here and do this interview with you. That is bomb.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I had a lot of fun having you here. It's
been
a while since I've seen you.
Yes.
Would you like to leave on a specific note? Would you like to say anything?
Yeah, I would like to get some shout outs.
Oh my goodness.
Shout out to everybody that's listening. Shout out to my mother, on Taj, on Dai, Godmommy, on Kwashi, and any of my friends who are listening, anybody out there, anybody who watches this on YouTube later, shout out to you, and thank you for taking the time to really listen to me. And I'm so just blessed and thankful and so appreciative of everything. Life can be bliss. I'm gonna leave it at that, because bliss is a whole nother project I'm working on, and I'm gonna leave it at that. God bless all of you. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you for showing up.
Yeah, always.
Always.
And thank you, Donna, for being here today.
Yes,
like, for real, my photographer, my best friend, my sister.
And
you know,
I think that's a
I
really
love you all.
good
Thank
note
you so
to
much.
leave on.
Yeah.
So, please enjoy the rest of the music. He compiled it himself and sent it to me. That way I had something to give you all. And have a good night. This has been Hot Mess Central. You can follow me on all platforms as Nana Marie, NanaMarie. You can also follow my co-host. You can follow all of us here, part of the family, Hot Mess Central, on pretty much all platforms now, I think. And if not all platforms, we'll get all platforms. We're figuring it out. But please remember, everything goes right and wrong all at the same time here. So have a good night.
Wasting my time, give her all of my mind.